Hello everybody, I'm Ard, and welcome to another episode of Minecraft Enigmatica 2 Expert. As you can tell, I'm all geared up in a hazmat suit, because today it's time to mostly wrap up Industrialcraft and finally build a nuclear reactor to power our matter fabricator with. So, let's talk about a few things first before we start on that. So for starters, I had to go finish up some of the quests prior to the nuclear reactor in the quest book. If we go into the Industrialcraft section, you can see that I already mostly filled this out, but so let's do a quick talk about these before we continue on. So the first one is the geothermal generator, which was the one I was originally going to make to power my Industrialcraft stuff way back at the start. And it basically creates power via lava, which is what I was going to use the lava pump I set up in the nether for and then just didn't do. So we're just going to ignore that. Next up is solar panels that can produce power when in the sun. Kind of a pain in the butt to make in this pack because they each require a generator, and well, these are easy now, but it requires effort for relatively low power, and it just isn't worth it, especially since we're about to build a nuclear reactor. So, skipping this. Next up is the semi-fluid generator, which, well, consumes liquid fuels for the most part, which, yeah, that's probably pretty good, except we already have a diesel generator in the basement, and, well, we're about to build a nuclear reactor, so skipping this. And lastly is the kinetic generator, which is Industrialcraft's version of the windmills or the steam turbines, which probably pretty good. Would be nice to set up for a condenser for distilled water as discussed last time for making IC2 coolant, but I don't know, maybe later, but definitely not now. So skipping this as well. These are all made, they're sitting in a box, and we're just not going to use them. This leads us to the nuclear reactor, and this right here makes it look like it's relatively simple to make. Just a single reactor and 6 chambers. Well, this is where things get weird and get to be a lie. You definitely want to read the description on the book that says if you don't know what you're doing, please go read a guide, and they aren't joking. I honestly have no idea how anybody figures out these reactors. In theory, they're modeled after real ones, but I couldn't even begin to tell you where to even get started on this. They are a complex mess. So I'm going to leave some links of the reactor I copy and tend to use for this. That works. When you go read it through the guides, they'll describe them from Mark 1 to Mark 5 in increasing danger to your base. Mark 1's being completely stable, and that's what I'm using. The Mark 1 that's known to produce the most power with pretty much no threat. Okay, so we're going to start by building this reactor inside a compact machine because, well, these can explode. These can make very, 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 very big explosions if things go wrong. In theory, we're building a safe reactor, but better safe than sorry. So let's talk about the basic layout of these. To start with, you take one nuclear reactor and put it in the very center wherever you want to put it. And then you can surround up to each face with a single reactor chamber. So we'll put one down here and I'll show you what the interface looks like. So once you do that, you can open this up and you can see that it has this box open to put items into. We'll get into what this is in a minute. As you add more of these slots open up. Until, when it's completely full, this is completely open. You do not need to fill up all of these. You can actually run it with a single chamber and things are perfectly okay. It just adds more power, but requires many more pieces. And I never actually talked about what it takes to make these. So it mostly takes a ton of lead to make these. The rest of this is pretty easy. Even the reactor chambers are just lead and basic machine casings. This part makes it look really simple. However, the next step requires we look inside this box and you notice that I have a ton of other components. We can ignore the tunnels, but I'll need those later. So there's a total of 54 pieces in here, one for each slot I have in here. And the layout of those in here needs to be very, very specific, and this is where you need to follow a guide if you don't know what you're doing. There's also layout tools you can use and find online that can help you figure it out, but the reality is people have long since figured out the best builds, and you're probably better off just following a guide at this point. Alright, and fully loaded up, and as you can see in this layout, if I wasn't using a guide, I would have no idea what any of this does. So these are the fuel rods right here. These are quad fuel rods. They come in 1s, 2s, and 4s. There's different sizes that have different amounts of fuel and different amounts of power that react differently. Again, I don't know the rules. I'm not an expert. There's different levels of plating you can use. They reduce the damage from the explosion if it does explode and increase the amount of heat that the reactor can generate safely. Heat vents, which vent heat from the reactor. And then I know this component heat exchanger is important, but I can't remember why, and I don't remember exactly what it does. I'm sorry, I'm not an expert on any of these. This is the reactor that supposedly generates 420 EU. It has been a while. Last time I used it, it was pretty safe. This is the part that makes me nervous and is why I created a backup of my world just recently. These reactors do not work unless you have a redstone source powering them, turning them on. So until I flip this switch, it does nothing. Okay, let's flip the switch and turn it on. And it's generating 1680 EU, which is significantly more than it should be. It's probably boosted in this pack, I couldn't tell you why, but this isn't even like 4x, this is some weirder number, I think. But not gonna complain, this is quite a bit of power. So I'm gonna turn this back off. And as you can see, it's slowly, very slowly consuming parts in here. For the most part, it's barely touching them now. In theory, this should have a couple hours cycle on the fuel rods. I can't remember exactly how this works, it's been a long time. But now I'm gonna go grab the matter fabricator and move it in here and put power into it and it in the recycler and run a tunnel to the outside to pump fluid into the replicator. So this took a little bit longer than I expected because there's a bug that I forgot about with Industrialcraft in this pack, and that's because Industrialcraft 2 has pretty much been orphaned and exists from the Stone Ages. So as you can see here, I have industrial class glass fiber going into an MFSU, one of the highest tier transformers. This is because if you cannot connect universal cables up to the reactor or some other stuff reliably. And sometimes they just disconnect on their own. So we connected it up this way, and then we have power passing through the universal cables into these so that these don't blow up. Haven't actually tested this. This might blow up. Let's turn the power on. You can see the power is going in, but is not coming out. There we go. And now we have power coming in, and the recycler is running, and so is the matter fabricator. And you can see that it's moving a lot faster now that it's chewing through all of the power from the reactor. I have this fluid ejector upgrade pushing out to the north wall, which is here, and there's a tunnel right on the other side. It appears to be pulling it out, and it should be putting it into the replicator now. So we can go outside and take a look. Alright, so bad news, I completely forgot about something. So there's another bug with IC2 on top of this. The reactor doesn't work inside compact machines, which means anytime I exit it out, the mass fabricator and recycler lost power, so that's not great. I'm gonna have to take this outside and chance blowing up my base, but this should be a safe reactor anyway, so, you know, in theory, shouldn't be a problem. Alright, so I made a very cramped, ugly mess back here behind my Industrialcraft machines, right? I shoved it in a corner back here. Yeah, hopefully things won't explode. That would be bad. But as you can see, the matter fabricator is now going. The recycler's now going. Although it's not outputting scrap to the right side, so I need to figure out what's going on with that. And the replicator is now gaining UU matter. So, we're now able to actually reasonably use this. It should build up in a reasonable amount of time now. You know, assuming my base doesn't explode. Okay, now that we've got this done, I think it's time to do the victory lap and claim all of the loot chests that we've been stocking up from doing this. So let me go grab all these and let's see how many we've got. Looks like it's 27 chests, so let's pop these open and see if we get lucky. Chemical thrower. Don't know how useful that actually is. Ignition plugs for conversion dynamos. It increases power from refined fuel, which I probably won't use. Block emerald, which we can just convert to a normal block of emerald. Healing collector, well, it's free. Pig iron, also free. Another shield. Cake. Lanterns, pineapple ham, which we at least haven't eaten. Salt, more blocks. A revolver, I guess we can shoot stuff. More bricks. Oh, an IC2 storage cell, that might be useful later. More food we haven't eaten. A diamond chisel, which I've got lying around somewhere. A chair that I should just chuck in the fire. An advanced computer. I have no idea if that's useful, but it can be replicated, so we can throw that in the replicator. Vending moss, which we don't really need. Free wind generator, though. Oh, a bunch of free wind generators. Okay, then. Might have lost one of them. Glowing glass. Glowing blocks. Chemical throw turret. Onion hamburger, which we haven't eaten. Hamster wheel, which we'll get to that later. More emeralds. I'm just going to throw that in the trash. An impregnated casing, which we can make, but still free. And some observers. So I think the best thing we got were these storage cells and the free power. Maybe the helium collector. Yeah, that was about it. Nothing too horribly exciting this time. Nothing really out of reach of us other than maybe these storage cells. Oh yeah, this is a bit out of our reach currently. We should be here not too long though. Well, that was a relatively productive, if not confusing day, since now I've got this jammed in my base in the most awkward place possible, but now we have a fully functioning mass fabricator and replicator. So that's good, right? So, as always, I'm Ard. Thank you for watching, and have a nice day.